So circles here, the standard form of a circle looks like this. You're going to have x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. So with a circle, you're going to have your x and your y is squared. With a circle is not a function. So a circle, your equation is not typically going to be solved for y because it's got a y squared instead of just a y. So whenever you think of the things that we've done so far, if we had numbers on the inside of parentheses, they move things left or right in the opposite direction. Well, for this, it's sort of the same, except for both sets of numbers here are inside of the parentheses, so both are going to be opposite direction. The number in here with the x is going to move this left or right opposite direction. So if you have a minus h, it's going to go to the right h units. The y, the up or down for these, is also in parentheses. So you have a minus k, you would go up or down k. So the center of the circle is going to be at hk. Notice you have opposite signs here, negative h, negative k, and your center is at positive h, positive k. The radius is whatever this is equal to squared here. So this, if this equals 16, the radius would be 4. If this equals 25, the radius would be 5. And x and y, of course, are not replaced. Those are variables. So let's look at some of these. If we have a problem like this, we have to graph x minus 3 squared plus y plus 4 squared equals 4. This one is already in standard form for a circle, so you don't have to do anything to it. So our center here would be at 3, positive 3, negative 4. You take the opposite sign of both of those numbers. And then our radius is going to be the square root of this number. So the square root of 4 would give us 2 here. So it always equals the radius squared. To get the radius, you have to take the square root of whatever number your equation is equal to. So if you need to graph this, you're just going to go to the point 3, negative 4. So 3, negative 4 is right here. That is your center. And if you have a radius of 2, that means you're going to go up 2, and down 2, and right 2, and left 2, and all those points will be on the circle. So we'll draw in our circle as best we can. Circles are kind of hard to draw, but at least try to make sure that it's round, kind of round. Don't draw it like a diamond there. Okay, any questions on that? Okay. Alright, so for this next part, we've got lots of equations. It's asking us to find the radius and the center of each equation. So for this one, let's see. Hannah, what's the center of number 1? 3, negative 1. And Skylar, what's the radius? It will be 8. Very good. Because we take the square root of that 64. Okay. Justice, what would the center be for number 2? Okay. So like on number 1, we had the opposite of this. So we had a positive 3, and here we had a negative 1 for our y-coordinate. This one's a little different because there's nothing with the x. So if there's nothing there, what would we put? It's going to be 0. So our x-coordinate is 0. And what would the y-coordinates be? 9. Good. And the radius is a little bit weird on this one because it's not a perfect square. So Jaden, what would we get for our radius? 3.742. Or if you want, you could just leave it the square root of 14, depending on what the problem looks like there. Okay? What is the center for number 3? Very good. 3, 0, and oops. That's not up here. Alright, so this is the square. And Matt, what's our radius? 22. Okay. Sydney, what's the center for number 4? Very good. And Savannah, what's the radius? Square root of 24, or you said what? 4.899. Okay. All right. Any questions on those? So these should be pretty straightforward if you've got one that's already in standard form. You're just reading those pieces off there. Okay, so the next 3 that you got are asking you to do the opposite. They're giving you the radius in the center, and you have to write the equation. So Liliana, for that first one, if we have a center at 3, 4, and a radius of 5, what would our equation look like? Perfect. Okay. Use the opposite signs inside of the parentheses. Always a plus in between. R squared is 25 here. Okay. Lyra, what would the answer be for number 2? Okay. X plus 1 squared plus y squared is going to equal 9 there. Opposite sign here. If you want, you can write this x plus 1 squared plus y plus 0 squared equals 9. But it looks like you know what you're doing a lot better if you say it this way. This way, you've got it right, but I feel like you're teetering on the brink of not really getting it. So you can do that if you want, but this is better right here. As far as answer choices go, when you're on something multiple choice, it's definitely going to be this instead of this. Okay. Nathan, what will we have for that last one? A radius of 2 and a center at negative 4, 7. Perfect. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So, all right. That next slide is something that today is not going to be quite as important to you as it will be when we go through the other conic sections for our ellipse and our hyperbola and our parabolas. But this is how to tell if something is a circle if it's not in standard form. So if you have an equation and you notice that the highest degree x term is x squared and the highest degree y term is y squared, and they are both positive, then the equation is either a circle or an ellipse. If the coefficients are the same, it's a circle. If the coefficients are different, it's an ellipse, which you'll look at on the video tomorrow. So the ellipse we'll look at tomorrow. But so right now, if something is a circle, then we're going to have an x squared, a y squared, and their coefficients are going to be the same. Okay. So let's see what this is going to look like. You guys did some complete and square review last night. I'm going to skip this right here. I think we can make do without it. So if I have an equation like this, and I'm asked to find the radius in the center, that is not nearly as easy as it was on the other problems, because I don't see parentheses, it doesn't equal a number. So what we're going to have to do for this is, first of all, we're going to decide it's a circle. And to decide if it's a circle or not, you're going to look at your x squared and your y squared and see if they have the same coefficient. And in this case, they do. Neither one of them have a coefficient, so it's got the understood 1 there. And of course today, that's not going to be a very big deal because I'm only going to give you circles since that's the only one we've done so far. But as we move on, the other ones look a lot like circles, even though they're not circles, so it'll be more important to check for that. So this is a circle, and what I need for a circle is I need to get an answer that's like x plus something squared plus y plus something squared equals the radius squared. Right? That's what I need in the end. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to complete the square to get this in this form. So the first thing you want to do is group your x's together, group your y's together, and then move any coefficients, any constants you might have to the other side. So I'm going to say x squared minus 4x, and because I need to complete the square, I'm going to put plus blank here. And then I'm going to have y squared plus 5y plus blank is going to equal, that's going to be a positive 5 when I move it over to the other side. And since I put a plus blank and a plus blank on the left side, I'm going to put a plus blank and a plus blank on the right side. Okay, so we've got x squared minus 4x plus blank. We are going to complete the square for the x's, and we'll complete the square for the y's, and that will allow us to get this in the right form. So if I want to complete the square, I want it to look like this with something squared. This will be x. I'll have a minus sign because it matches this. So, Harper, what do I do to find this number that goes right here? What? Okay, good. And what number will we get that go here? We'll get a 2 because it is half of the 4, right? And then, Harper, what number should I add in that blank that I have there? I'll put a 4 because 2 squared is 4. So remember, it's the same always for completing the square. We divide by 2 to get the number that goes here, and then we raise that to the second power to get the number that goes here. If I add a 4 right here, I've got to add a 4 over here on the other side also. The second one's a little trickier. You're going to have a y, you're going to have a plus. It's a little trickier because you've got an odd number. So whenever I do this, Matt, what number will I get to go right here? What were you doing to try to find that number? Okay, we do not square root. So to get from here to here, which it's a little hard to see with the first one because the square root of 4 is 2, but that's not what we were doing. We were dividing by 2. Okay, so we're just taking half. So half of 5 is 2.5, or I'm going to go with 5 halves. And then here, to get the number that goes here, I've got to square that number. So if I square 5 halves, what will I get? If I square the top, I get 25. If I square the bottom, I get 4. Okay, so it's always the same. For completing the square, we divide by 2 to get the number that goes in the parentheses. We raise it to the second power to get the number that goes here. So if I put 25 over 4 here, I've got to put 25 over 4 here. In completing the square, I really wanted you to do fractions. I can probably live with either here. Still like fractions better, but I can probably live with it if you don't do fractions on these. So now you just need to combine this side over here. The good thing is you don't have to solve this all the way. You just have to combine everything, and then you've got it in standard form. So it's not like where we've got to square root both sides or anything for completing the square. So this is going to be 9 plus 25 over 4, and that would be, like if we multiplied by 4 on top, and bottom there. That would be 36 over 4 plus 25 over 4, and that would give us 61 over 4, so we get 61 over 4 here. There will be a calculator inactive section of the test, mostly for graphings. Actually, no, maybe there's not on this. I think there is, because I think the parabolas I don't want you to be able to graph. So you do need to be able to do some of these without the calculator. Fractions are easier if you're not allowed to have the calculator. Decimals aren't bad if you're using the calculator. Okay, so from this, now it's in standard form, because we've got x plus or minus a number squared and y plus or minus a number squared equals the radius squared. So the center of the circle, Lily, what's the center? 2, -5/2, or if you want to do 2, -2.5, that's fine as well. And then the radius for this one, Gabby, what will we get for the radius? Good. And when we have the square root of 61 over 4, can we take the square root of 61? We cannot. We'll leave it. But can we take the square root of 4? It is 2. So probably if you see it in square root form, you're probably going to see the square root of 61 over 2 instead of the square root of 61 over 4, even though they're the same. And you might see it in decimal form if it's calculator active. That will be fine as well, if you get that. Okay. Questions on example 1? Okay, let's do another one. Alright, so for example 2, we need to find the center and the radius. So on this one's going to be a little bit different because this is still a circle because we have an x squared and a y squared and they have the same coefficient. So this is still a circle. But the way we solve it's going to be a little bit different because when I complete the square, I don't really want to have a number in front of my x squared or my y squared, right? And in this case, since they're the same, I can take that 2 and divide everything in the whole entire equation on both sides of the equal sign by 2. So whenever I do that, I will get x squared plus y squared minus 2x plus 6y minus 9 equals 0. So this now looks a lot more like what we had. So we're going to group our x's together, group our y's together, move the -9 over to the other side. So we'll have x squared minus 2x plus blank plus y squared plus 6y plus blank equals, that 9 is going to be positive when I move it to the other side, and I'm going to put a plus blank plus blank. Okay, so now we're going to complete the square, which means we need to have this squared and this squared equals a number. So, for the first set of parentheses, I know I have an x minus So, Jaden, what number will go right here in that spot? We'll have a 1. Because we take 2 divided by 2, we get 1. And then what number goes in the blank up top? It's also 1 because 1 squared is 1, right? So if we add 1 to this side, we must also add 1 to the other side. Okay? For the second part, I'm going to have y, and just this, what number will I get right here whenever I am completing the square? Okay? 9's going to go up here. What number will we have right here? 3. We'll have the 3 here, and then we'll put the 9 up here. So we'll add the 9 in that blank. We must add the 9 to the other side also. Okay? And then 9 plus 1 plus 9, that's much easier than the one with the fraction, so we just get 19. Okay? Lakin, what's the center of that circle? Perfect. And Jasmine, what's the radius? It is the square root of 19. If you want to get a decimal, you can, but we can just leave the square root of 19. It'll be fine. Okay. Questions? All right, we've got one more. Okay, so for this one, Matt, what's the first thing I should do on this problem? Good. We're going to divide everything by 2 because we do not need to have anything in front of our x and y squared. So that gives us x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 4y plus 17 equals 0. Okay, so now we'll group our x's together. X squared minus 10x plus blank plus y squared plus 4y plus blank. And that's going to equal negative 17, because 17 is going to be negative. We move it to the other side. We'll put plus blank plus blank. Okay, so when we factor this, we're going to have an x. We'll have a minus. Let's see, Emily, what number will go right here in that parentheses whenever we're completing the square? It'll be 5. Perfect. And then, Emily, what number goes in the blank up here? 25. Wonderful. So divide by 2 and then square. So we'll add 25 to the other side. For the y's, we've got y squared plus, I'm sorry, that square should not be there. I'm just going to mark it out because my eraser will get rid of everything. Square will be on the outside. So we'll have y plus something, and then that'll equal something over here. So, Sarah, what number will go right here in this spot? We'll have a 2. And then what number goes in the blank up top? We have a 4. Wonderful. So if we add the 4 here, we must add it to the other side. We've got negative 17 plus 25 plus 4. So it's going to be 29 minus 17. So we get 12. Is that right? Okay. All right, so it's in standard form. Let's see, Sydney, what's my center? 5, negative 2. And Nathan, what's my radius? 3.36. Okay, that sounds good. All right, questions? All right. Okay, this is your assignment. I think everything is... Let me look over it to make sure there's nothing I need to tell you about specifically